All right, welcome to part two of my interview with Natalie Nagengast, founder of Markets for Makers. We got talking so much that we actually put this into a second part. So hopefully you watched part one. If you didn't, click on the link and actually go and see part one first. But welcome to part two. All right, so you've gone from one location to now we were adding 5 cities. I can only imagine the number of vendors is growing 800, 900, 1,000 a week. Something along that line?
It's a lot that we've been taking on. It's actually why we're building a computer system. At some point in your company, you have to go from manually entering into spreadsheets to actually creating systems.
So this is probably where scaling becomes an issue then, is now that you've gone from one market outside of your front door to now 5 cities and 3 different states. What have you guys had to go through to get this scalability?
Yeah, I mean, at some point you have to start to put in systems. There's a certain point where you're manually entering things onto spreadsheets, and now at this point in our company, we're actually building market management software. And so that's one thing that you have to do when you get to a certain size. That's when you've gotten really big, but I know that many people struggle with just even the small steps to even get to that point.
What are some of those small steps that you had to overcome, and what did you find helped you achieve?
You know, sometimes I find that one of the hardest things for new business owners to try to figure out is, hey, I want to get from point A to point B, and this is kind of who I see myself as and what I want to do. And they need to write those things down as to what are the big picture and try to figure out how to break that down into the steps that it takes to get there. I don't care what industry it is, but many times people don't know what that is. So whenever I'm trying to break something down, I try my best to find somebody that has done it before, that find out what they've done. And you talk to lots of different people, and the ones that are more encouraging are better. But let's say you want to be a writer and they say, well, you're never going to be a writer. Just ignore those people.
Don't talk to those people.
Exactly, ignore those people, but it helps you break down the steps. So I broke down my steps, and I say to every person that talks to me and they feel a little bit stuck to write daily to-do lists. And I do that on a daily, weekly, I mean, whenever I feel like I need to write a new list or I've gotten a lot done, I even get obsessive about it where if I've completed some big project, I'm writing my to-do list for the week, I will write down the thing and then I strike it out after I've done it just to make me feel like I've gotten a few things done.
I got it done. I did something.
I already did that one, even before you started it, I'll do that all the time just so I can cross things off my list. And many people like to do it by hand, like myself, or they like to put it on their computer and walk around with it. But I find that handwriting things out and creating vision boards, creating idea boards, and breaking down the steps and trying to put them out in a way that's not just on a computer screen. Because I think a lot of us do that and they just kind of put it there and it just stays there versus actually writing it in your notebook. It puts it on the page and you can kind of conceptualize it a little bit better.
I also feel like when you're putting it on the computer screen, everything's kind of the same size. It's kind of small, and sometimes when you put it out and you get to look at it from a broader perspective, it kind of gives you a different viewpoint.
Oh yeah, I mean, and just looking at the flow of what needs to happen. I mean, I got to the point where so much of it is in my head of how to set up a market, and I started writing up checklists. I knew the pre-checklists, the setup checklist, the day of market checklist, the tear down checklist, the once you get home what to do to unpack checklist, and inventory everything, those kinds of things. And sometimes putting it down on the pieces of paper and being able to move it around a big table and getting that bigger idea. I mean, I can't plan. I mean, I'm better now, but many times whenever I'm planning a market, I go to Kinko's and I get the big map of the building and I roll it out and I get all my Post-its and figure out how big the Post-it is going to be for the right size booth. I start Post-iting out all of my plans so I can physically see it and I can touch it and kind of move things around, because you can't do that on a computer. And it's small, and you sometimes you need bigger things and bigger paper in order to conceptualize certain ideas that you have.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That I find very important, is that you have to be able to really think broadly and look at it from a big perspective.
As well as the flow. I mean, what is the first thing that needs to happen to the end? Like, where do you start and where does it end? And creating that organization within your company of knowing, first we have to do this thing and then this thing and this thing. I mean, if you want to have 5,000 people come through your door or 3,000 people to buy it, you have to understand that not every person's going to want it. So you have to work backwards. Like how many people do you have to reach out to in order to get one sale? I mean, many salesmen, they know, hey, on that 100th call, I always make a sale. Out of 100, I usually hit one, and so they just start jumping on the phone and just start talking to people.
Yes.
And that's the whole idea, is you want to work backwards from that.
That's right.
Yeah.
How many steps do you think you have on your checklist for one market? If you said that you've got a checklist for like the pre-setup and then the event and then the breakdown, how many steps do you think you have on your checklist? I'm curious.
I try to keep it as simple as possible.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting because not that the less check marks you have, but the less complicated you get about it, the better for me. So I have a binder and, I print out at least 30 pages. But what's good is that I'll have, hey, set up a photo booth, and it'll say, see photo booth checklist. So I have in the back of there, I can go hand the photo booth checklist to 3 people that are helping me set up. They can read through it. I mean, the hope will be eventually to have little videos, whatever you can do to get someone's attention and keep it long enough to explain something to them.
Yeah.
Same thing with even my markets. Nobody reads the setup info ever. So it's just this whole idea of trying to make digestible data.
Trying to make it easy enough. Because sometimes what I find is somebody, it's like, if you say water the plants.
Yeah.
You could have a check mark and just say water the plants, or you could get way too complicated and say open the door, grab the watering can, put it under the faucet, turn the faucet on, turn the faucet off, water the plant, refill as needed, and you could make it 25 steps. And sometimes people need that, and sometimes they don't. So there's like a happy medium.
It also depends on what you're doing. I mean, my brother, he has binders this full of, to put on haunted houses, but you also have to realize he's got 125 staff. He's got 5 haunted houses. He has, in each location, he has 2 locations. I mean, he has a lot going on. And but the idea is if you're going to give that binder to someone, you don't want to hand someone a huge binder. You want to try to get it down to a little list of 10 things you need to do that day. And you want to try to give them confrontable, items that you can see and you're like, okay, I could do that today. Because when you get into these overwhelming, way too many steps, it's a balance. You don't want to give somebody too much. You don't want to give them too little, but you want to make sure that they're staying productive with whatever they have. So many times the overall idea of what you need to get done, but I always prioritize. You put the most important things at the top that you must get done that day, the less important things, and then certain things will bump up as the weeks go on.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have that proposal that's overdue by a week. You need to get that done now. You could have, procrastinated a few weeks ago, but now it's like, okay, let's get this done. So.
Yeah. And now that you've got 5 markets, it started off with just you. Do you have other people working with you, or?
So interesting. Okay, so I used to think like having a big company meant you need to have lots of employees. And sometimes I felt like so many people, they will measure their success by how many employees you have. So my mom, she won an award for the largest Indianapolis-owned women-owned business at one point in time.
Wow.
And they went off of not necessarily revenue as much as like how many employees did you have.
Yeah.
And
that used to be a big benchmark.
It used to be a big benchmark. And nowadays, I started off Pier Street Market. I had one girl working with me. And then when Pier Street Market went out for bid, I had one girl that would just work on the weekends every once in a while for me. And then I had, when I launched Markets for Makers, I brought on 4 full-time staff. So I was like, oh, this is great. I have myself and I have 4 people. I have a girl in marketing. I have that does photography. I have a girl that helps me with my vendors. I have my girl that helps me with my prep. And then I have another sales assistant and another part-time sales assistant. So I would have this larger group, and I have my office. And by the end of the year, I realized we were bleeding money from way too many salaries. If you think about how much salaries add up, there's too many salaries, as well as even just rent. Do we even need an office? Do people even come into the office? Those types of questions. So when we had gotten to the end of last year, I thought, well, had we not hired so many people, we would have made a lot more money. And sometimes I realized, let's say you tell them, go help me figure out what curtains to pick out for my house, whatever it is. Well, they go and research 500 options, and they give you their favorite 3, and then they find the pricing, and they do this whole research, and it takes them a good maybe 10 hours to do what it could take you an hour to make a quick decision. Because you walk into that store, you say, I really like that color, okay, let's get it.
Right, there's no researching that needs to be done. There's none of this
so
other work that has to happen.
You can make decisions so much faster. And so I realized I needed to scale back my company a lot more in 2019 training. And that's why we've been building computer systems, because I realized so much of it is, hey, I need a girl that takes all the applications and she puts them on the spreadsheet and then she tells me what she thinks. And then from there, she goes and puts them on a different spreadsheet and she tells me if everyone's paid, and she'll remind those people to pay. And if they pay, we need to log that on the spreadsheet. All of that can be done in a computer system. There's so many things that people are doing these days manually that can easily be automated.
Yeah.
It's hard to sit down and make those systems. It was hard for me to make my checklists for the market.
Yeah.
So many people just keep coping and they never organize while they're doing it.
And that's another thing, is that these checklists that you did, it takes a lot of time to get the checklists, but it saves you so much time later that some people can't think that way. I talk to people sometimes about statistics and they just go, oh, well, it'd take me forever to figure that out. And I'm like, okay, well, if it takes you more than 5 minutes to figure out your statistics, you're doing it wrong.
Exactly.
And the first couple times it might take you a while, but then it becomes easier and easier. And that's what checklists are there for, is, it takes effort to put into it and to start it. But after that, you're saving yourself so much time.
I think the hardest thing is you have to mentally organize everything. You have to mentally figure it all out of seeing how the flow goes. So like before, we'd have checklists, call the person to order the flowers.
Yeah.
And depending on the city, it would be a different person. So, they'd have their own little list of where they go find people and they'd check their emails.
Right.
I was like, no, put it on the list. Go call Sally and order this right here. And that just makes everyone's life easier, makes it more organized, takes out the stress. And it's very much just like boom, boom, boom. You can get done in 1 week what you got done in a day, maybe day and a half of your quick little checklist, because you've got it all organized.
Yeah. So. Now that you've got this organized and scaled, what's next for Market for Makers? You told me that you had some other stuff going to help these makers out.
So we're trying to get a lot of our market online. So you're going to be seeing us having an online marketplace that you'll be able to shop online. You'll also be seeing us launching a new division where we are going to be giving resources to makers. And then we're going to be rolling this whole market plus the online plus the resources out to communities, retail developments, and commercial developers, because a lot of these commercial, like you said about malls, they're all struggling. And so the whole idea is to try to help them create community centers, create areas that have markets, and try to create this place where people can come and shop local and try to, get people into mom and pop shops again, creating these.
I really think that that's the future. I really do.
That's the hope. I mean, I think that it determines by what you buy, what you purchase will dictate where the market goes.
And here's another thing that I'm very passionate about, and I've said this before in other videos, is that I think that the more technologically advanced we are, the less in communication people are with each other. And I think that the makers or the market experience or these experiences that you were talking about is a way to make up for that in a sense. And I think that that's why people still want interaction. It's great that I can order it and have it sent to my door in a day. There's nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, if all we do is work at home and we cook at home and we eat at home,
it's
like
groceries
we
delivered,
we gotta get out somewhere. And I think that certain people don't mind just sitting on the couch and have everything come to them.
Yeah.
But other people want to go out and meet people and do something. And I think that that's where the markets and the small mom and pop restaurants and things like that, I think that those are a prime market to be in because of that.
I think it's a balance. I think you always have to have balance. I do think that people are craving relationships that are real these days.
Yeah.
And you actually know the person that you get your eggs from. And I think that markets are something that has been in the human society for centuries.
Since the beginning of time.
Since the beginning of time, it has been
Before
markets.
money.
Yeah, I think that
it was trading and bartering stuff.
Yeah, in your DNA, you crave going outside and going to stalls and talking to people because you've been literally doing it for thousands of years, and you're used to that. And so I think that...
And that's where I feel like customer service is something that gets missed by these big corporations so heavily, that if you are a small business, you can be better with your individual communication, your one-on-one relationships. If you're better in that area than these big corporations, you're going to win.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's
basically what it comes down to with your markets that you mentioned. The people in the markets that do well are the people that are out there and they're talking, and the people that are just like waiting for somebody to come up and buy their product.
I totally agree.
They don't make as much money, and it's just it's a reality.
Exactly. I mean, the more you talk to someone, the more they can see the value, the more they can see the process. I mean, so many things are now mass produced across seas. Yeah. So half of it is educating people what it takes to make that thing that they're buying, you know. And so sometimes people sell a candle for $30, and I've seen it. And they talk about all the essential oils and all the thought that went into it and all these different things they did to create it. And so I think that you're exactly right. And I think that some of the most successful makers that I've seen, for example, a while ago, while they were still in business, was the Whole Donuts. They would do, I don't remember.
You had this at one point,
yeah, they were
right?
at Pier Street Market. Oh, that wasn't, I had a mini donut.
You had the mini
I started
donuts,
putting things in,
and you get to make your own mini donuts.
No, but the Whole Donuts, they would have
What's
this.
the Whole Donut?
They would have this little plate of donuts out, and they would have like the plastic over it, and they wouldn't put the name of it. So you had to come up and say, what kind is that? What kind is this? What kind is this? And they would show you what they had that day. And just getting you to talk to them, they would sell a donut way more than putting out a menu.
The communication is what sells it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I like that idea a lot, not putting a menu out there. That's
not
pretty
putting a menu.
Because then it makes somebody come up and say,
yeah,
what is that?
Exactly.
And that person's already a hot prospect for your product because they came up and they asked.
There's two sides of that coin too. Yes, menus are important to maybe not have, possibly, but there's also pricing is very important to put out. I will tell everyone that's in the market, if they don't have a price, people are too scared to ask about price. They'll ask you what flavors you have, but they will not ask you how much does that cost?
How much is it?
Because they don't want you to say too much or too little, and they now feel like an idiot, like, oh, I'm gonna walk around the market for a little bit, I'll come back. They don't know what to do, they put some of these awkward situations. So they go, oh no. So, there's different little tips and tricks that I have a million up my sleeve as far as how to handle all sorts of different, presentations.
Well, I want you to know, Matterhorn Business Development, we're here because we love working with people like your makers, and I would love to work with them. In fact, something that I've wanted to do, this is totally off the cuff, but something I've wanted to do is like work in a market or do something and film it and show people that somebody who knows nothing about this product can go out there and outsell the best salesperson just because I'm willing to go and communicate to somebody.
Oh, absolutely.
I think that would be so much fun.
Absolutely. Just get samples. That's like the biggest thing. Everyone sees a sample.
I can't do the hand massage thing, but I can squirt
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, it's funny because even the samples, you go around and you tell them but you have to tell them what it is before they get to take it.
Yeah.
Some people put their samples kind of a little bit behind, so they have to ask what it is, because one lady made some sort of candy and she's like, you're not going to want to eat lemon after peanut butter. Like, that's not going to work. She's telling me all about that. So I thought that was smart too, but just being able to never sitting down, always standing up. I mean, you're going to be sore on your feet.
It's work.
But you'll get used to it.
Yeah, and you'll have a lot of fun doing it.
Oh, absolutely. You make so many friends.
So let me ask you this. For people that are watching who might want to go to one of your markets or might want to be a vendor, is there a place online that I can go and get information about when markets are held and where? How do we interact with Markets for Makers?
Yeah, so we always keep our calendar up to date, which is marketsformakers.com.
Okay.
And then I try to keep the application process open as much as I can for future, so that way if they think of us right there in the moment, they don't have to remember to come back in the future. And so you would just go to marketsformakers.com.
Okay.
And then we have our calendar and application, and we have one application for multiple markets, so we try to keep it nice and easy.
Awesome. And current cities is Miami, Jacksonville, Tampa? Is Tampa still one?
Tampa, we haven't found a location, unfortunately. We're still looking.
So where are the cities that's at right now?
Yeah, so we have Miami, Jacksonville, Nashville, Indianapolis, and Chicago.
Nashville was the other one. Okay.
Yeah, so we kind of hit up the Midwest. We've had a lot of requests for the
Midwest
East and West
people.
Coast. Yeah, I mean, we just found the opportunity. It's something that is so rare. Whereas you go into New York City or you go into Los Angeles, it's on every corner. It's not something new. I mean, they've already...
And there's no space there. It's kind of
hard. It's the same thing as Tampa. I'm still waiting for a venue here to pop up, and maybe one day
we got to find a spot for Markets for Tampa to come back. I missed it when it was right outside. It was right outside my front door. It was amazing.
I know, but I have to say that it's really nice to be inside where there's no rain.
That's true. So, here especially, I can imagine.
Yeah, we have one venue in Indianapolis that is going to be indoor, outdoor, and I mean, you knock on wood for those guys that are going to be outside, but it's always nice when it's beautiful.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. It was something that, like I said, I thought about when I was doing the Sears video and talking about retail, and I was thinking about your market when I said there used to be this awesome market downtown.
Yeah.
And we need something like that around here. So I was very glad to be able to have you on,
Well, thank
sharing
you
your
for
words of
having
advice.
me. Yeah.
Keep up the good work.
Thanks.
Let us know if you need any help at all.
Great.
And if you have some of your makers that need some help, let us know.
Definitely.
This is a great resource for them, and I know you're
sure.
working on other resources for your makers.
Yeah.
So when that's ready, let us know, and we'll talk about it to our people as well.
Great.
So thank you so much
Thank
for
you
coming
so
on.
much.
And we hope to have you on again. I'd love
Great.
to have you
I'd
on
love
again.
that. That'd be
Okay,
great.
awesome.
Okay,
We'll definitely
good.
do that.
Okay.
And to all of you out there, I hope you learned something new. Please leave some comments down below of what you learned. Check out marketsformakers.com. Find out when the market's being held in your area. And share us some photos of you interacting at one of Natalie's markets. That'd be awesome too. So we'll see you all next time.